Today, we're going to be installing Debian. Now, just as some background, Debian is the Linux distribution that Ubuntu is based on. But it's more for those more tech-savvy users that have already played around with more user-friendly distros like Ubuntu, Linux Mint, and Elementary OS for at least a little bit. But without further ado, let's get right into this. Alright, so now the website is called debian.org. Okay, then we're going to go to Getting Debian. This is not really a user-friendly layout. Let's download an installation image. And we're going to want the AMD 64 one. Like, most of you are going to want the AMD 64. If you're not sure and you're installing this on your PC, go with AMD 64. But anyway, I'm going to save the file. And to make this more from a new user perspective, I haven't already downloaded this file, so we're going to do it together. And of course, I'll speed this up. Alright, so our download's completed, and in case you haven't noticed, this is a much smaller ISO image than the Ubuntu ISO, which by comparison is about 2.3 gigs. This is 336 megs. That's quite a bit of a size difference. But anyway, now I'm going to put this in my VMware folder. Alright, then I'm going to boot up my VM. Then let's plug in the Debian ISO, and then boot from it. Okay. And then if you were installing this, we do a graphical install. You can start to see how much less user-friendly this is than Ubuntu. Okay, well, and then we're going to choose English. I'm actually in Canada, and I just use the American English key map. And it just goes ahead and detects our hardware. It's kind of interesting watching all this configuration going on. Okay, well, I'm actually going to call this YouTube. I'll just leave the domain name blank. Okay, you know what? Let's just skip this, just so that way we get our user to be an administrator user. But of course, I would set a root password after that. And then my full name is Drew Howden. Name for account is fine. I'm going to create a password, and then you can show the password in the clear. I'm not going to do that. And then I'm actually in Eastern Time. Then if you were installing this on a dual boot, you'd do manual. But in this case, since it's on a VM, I'm going to do guided use entire disk because I'm going to be deleting this virtual machine after I'm done with this. Yeah, let's just install to that disk. Let's just put our files in one partition. Yeah, just to make things simple. You can see how much more advanced the Debian installer is than the Ubuntu installer. Yeah, right, the changes to the disks. Okay, then it's going to go and install the base system. Now this will take a while, so I'll speed this up. And we don't need to scan another CD or DVD. And the mirror I want is from Canada. And then we can just leave this the same. Rule of thumb, if you're not sure, just leave it as is. And then, for privacy reasons, I recommend you leave this popularity consent to no. Alright, so now here's the thing that makes it less user-friendly. On Ubuntu, you just have the GNOME desktop environment. Actually a modified version of it. Whereas on Debian, you get GNOME XSV, Cinnamon, Mate, LXD, LXQT. It's great because then you can actually choose to tune the system to your needs. But anyway, let's just go with whatever Debian's default desktop environment is. Okay, so then let's just install the grub bootloader. We're going to do it to dev SDA. So now that our installation is complete, let's boot into it. Alright, so then we get this more customized grub bootloader. I actually personally think the Ubuntu grub bootloader looks nicer. The thing is, this is the kind of distribution that you need to customize to get it looking nice. There we go, then we're going to log into our account. But it uses the same default desktop environment as Ubuntu. It's just that Debian doesn't apply as many customizations, if it even applies customizations at all. But anyway, now that we're in our desktop environment, let's actually go to the settings before we go much farther. Actually, I'm going to go configure my display to the appropriate resolution. This works fine for me. Actually, let's go to our details and see what version of GNOME we have. We have GNOME 3.30.2 compared to Ubuntu 20.04's GNOME 3.36. So yeah, like that kind of needs an update, but that's just how they compare in desktop environment versions. But I do love how the GNOME team has improved their default theme, which is Adwaita. But anyway, you can see that this has more of the pure GNOME layout. And you got like a bunch of default apps, like Ubuntu. Actually, first let's go back into the system settings. Let's see what backgrounds we got. And I think the default background kind of looks ugly. Let's swap it out with something that looks just a little bit nicer. I think this looks great. And actually I want to do the same on the lock screen. There we go. I haven't even been using this distro for 5 minutes and I've already managed to get it looking good. Lock screen, the same thing. If I wanted to get as involved with this as I do on my host system, I could actually get this looking like my Ubuntu does. And I actually think this looks nicer than my macOS Catalina wallpaper, to be honest. But anyway, now let's actually talk about getting some work done. And go into LibreOffice Writer. Okay, let's create a test file. Save that test to my documents. And actually, speaking of LibreOffice, I want to see what LibreOffice version I have. 6.1.5.2. Yeah, this is kind of outdated compared to Ubuntu 20.04. But anyway, let's actually look at the file browser. Pretty much the same as Ubuntu, since they share the same desktop environment. These actually kind of look big in my opinion. And then we can go to my documents and pull up that test file. There we go. I still have the stars feature and the same features as the file browser on Ubuntu. Like I said, Ubuntu is based on this. But anyway, we actually got more default GNOME apps than on Ubuntu. And I actually want to go look at the software center. And you'll quickly notice that we don't have any snaps here. Search for Spotify, nothing there. If you still want snaps, you can always install Snap Store and Snapd, which is what I'd do if I switch to Debian. But anyway, now let's actually check for any updates. Okay, this says my software's up to date. But anyway, let's actually look for Gnome Tweaks. I'm actually so used to distros not coming with Gnome Tweaks by default that I didn't realize that it already has Gnome Tweaks installed. So that's actually really smart. I'm actually not sure why not all distros do that. Appearance, get Adwaita. Let's actually switch to Adwaita Dark. Do you think the light theme or dark theme looks better? Here you go, quick, comment, vote, you got 5 seconds. Oh, this isn't live, so I'm actually gonna go with the dark theme. And I can install my Mac OS themes here. Oh, look at all the extensions. Fonts, some keyboard and mouse settings. Let's actually set this to area. I actually like to see the date up there, but I don't really need to see the weekday. And yes, let's get the minimize and maximize buttons. And I actually like to put these on the left. Yeah, I'm already starting to get into customizing this. Let's not take that customization too far, so as to not make this video crazy long. And since this is designed for a more tech-savvy user, let's actually go into Terminal, and let's actually go to look for updates. But first, before we do that, we want to actually do a sudo passwd root. Set a root password, just to prevent root access in recovery mode. You should always do this when you install a new distro. I wouldn't do it during the setup process, so that way you can just do a sudo with your user, which is especially helpful if you have a crazy long root password like I do. So that way it's quicker to just jump up to administrator. But anyway, let's go ahead and look for updates. And you can see you have much less repositories. And the packages are up to date. I actually wonder what lights off is. Oh, it's a game where I have to turn off all the lights. I'll have to look for that in the Ubuntu Software Center. But anyway, let's actually go into the utilities, and if I want to do a backup, I'd go to Archive Manager, or if I want to listen to music, I could go to Rhythmbox. And Evolution is an email client. I'm not actually going to go set up my email. And you got the same top bar as Ubuntu does. I wonder what this Documents app is for. And you started with Documents. Okay, let's actually close out of that before I get filed a copyright infringement desist on this video. I wonder what this music app is for when you've already got Rhythmbox. Contents of your music folder play here. I can't play any music for copyright reasons. There's a bit of a redundancy, so that's one thing I don't like, but of course I can go to software and remove all that. But anyway, since there's not really much to review in the default Debian installation, let's actually look at the web browser. It's actually called a Firefox ESR. I'm assuming that stands for Extended Support Release. I actually wonder what version that is. About Firefox 68. But anyway, let's actually first, just to avoid copyright issues, I'm actually going to take everything out of here except for search bar. There we go. Okay. But anyway, let's go to youtube.com and let's look at a really cool channel. And as you can see, I got 54 subscribers at the time of shooting this video. You know, since this video is playing anyway, let's watch this one. I don't like how every time I do these reviews, it automatically goes to this low resolution. I want HD. Ah, there we go, that's more like it. And of course, just like Ubuntu, you can turn up and down the volume. Has everything you'd expect from a standard Linux distribution install. Not really much to look at, but still, this is actually more user-friendly than I thought it would be. But anyway, would I recommend this distro for a user? No, because of some of the highly technical options you will get in the installation process. But the thing is, it's actually more user-friendly than I thought it would be, almost on par with Ubuntu. This really just shows that distribution does not matter, and I'm actually going to try to prove that in my next video. Now, of course, you don't have snaps by default, but you can install that, because snaps are built to be universal Linux packages. And on Debian, you don't have PPAs, but that's just a little piece of Ubuntu. Like, once you know how to customize Linux, you can use pretty much any distro you want. The only thing to affect is what software is available to you. But anyway, those are my first impressions on the installation and use of Debian. So thanks for watching. If you liked this video, found it interesting, hit the like button, share this video with your friends, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment.